there, and welcome back to Building the Boys. We now have the next 4 issues of the Disney Dolls House. We've got 19 through to 22. We will be building them. And this one accelerates. It accelerates a lot because we're going to go from having no rooms fully built to 3 rooms pretty much built. It's a lot in this one. As I said, this is where we start to accelerate. So we've got past the slow stages. Now we are putting our foot down and we are going for it. So this structure is going to build dramatically over the next 6 months. There is, bizarrely, not loads to do with regards to new parts in issue 19. We have a table to build. And then the rest of it is going to be using the parts we've accrued up to this point to piece together to complete Mickey's room. It's about taking your time on this one and allowing these things to dry. So there's no rush. There's no points for coming first. Take your time. Just take your time. Use your glue. If it doesn't hold, use a better glue or use more glue is what you need to do. But let this thing dry. I know there's always this mad rush when these turn up where you just want to burn through them. It's important you let this stuff dry. And we'll go into that a bit more in some of the other issues about why it's probably best not to jump ahead, because you'll see things, well, I could do that now. There's normally a very good reason for not doing it now. But we'll talk about that. I'll explain what that is, and it's the nature of the materials you're using. But let's get this started. So we have this little table to build first, and then we're going to be adding the wall to Mickey's room, which links onto the Frozen room. Here's everything we get in 19 now. We get this wall, which can be for the Wonderland kitchen, and we get our first sheet of wallpaper for the Wonderland kitchen. But we don't need those. We're not doing anything with those in this issue, so those go to the side. We also get some parts of the trim for the wall. We're not using that either, so that goes away. We do get these rather lovely little flowers. Now these are for the Frozen room, and again, it's just going to be some lovely detailing for your house. It's very nice. Let's make sure this one stands. Yes, it does. And that's what we get. So it's like, I mean, again, there are lots of flowers in this house and lots of different colour as well, which I think, again, will just really make your rooms pop. But it's a lovely little thing. So these are the parts that we are using in regards to new parts. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be building this table. Now, it's fairly straightforward. And this is one for, I would say, your super glue. So let's get this together. Let's grab our glue and let's get this built. Okay, so we've got our Loctite Power Gel, which I kind of swear by. And what we're going to do is we're going to put a tiny, and I mean tiny, touch on each of these 4 pins, here, here, and here. So, let's get this started. There we go. Drop there. Drop there. Drop there. And drop there. And that is what you're going to need. And then we're going to pop this one onto here. So these pins will match up with these holes. There we go. I'm going to hold that one nice and firm so the glue takes. And now in each of these 4 holes, we are going to place one of the legs. So again, it's going to be a touch of glue on the tip of here, and then in it goes. And that's all we need to do. This really is a basic build. Don't go mad on your super glue because you don't need to. These things hold firm anyway. So there you go, you can see. Barely any on here because you just don't need it. These things will hold. I mean, it's not like you're putting weight on these or anything like that, so you don't need to worry about that. Push those down. That's the first one. That's leg 2. Leg number 3. Oh, put a little bit too much on that one, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to do the other one. But there you go, just borrow in from it. So we can put leg number 3 in, just there, and leg number 4, and then we are going to be done. And there, our table is complete. Now it'll take a few minutes to dry. It's not going to take long because it's super glue, but there we are. So we can take our flowers And we can pop them on our table. And there we have it. Lovely little table, and that'll go in the frozen room. It's a gorgeous purple. And that's it. That's how we build that table. So those are the new parts for this issue. Now we're going to move on to the main build of this issue, which is going to give us finally some decent structure to this house. So it's asking us to build our structure. Now don't be nervous about this, because this is nothing we haven't done before. Okay, it isn't. It might seem a little intimidating, but it's not. We're going to take the bits that we've already made and we're going to start slotting them together. Now it does ask you to do this in a way that seems, I don't know, weird, but you know, they're the experts apparently. So we're going to follow what they say. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put glue in between these pegs. So we're going to have a nice layer of glue between each of these. Not loads, we don't want to slather it on, but we need enough that it's going to hold. So just put a drop into these and then I'm going to spread it. Let's go in there, in there, in there, in there, and just touch there, and again, touch there, just a little touch there. Okay, so spread this, just got a nice even coat. Go there, go here, and here, here, there, there, and there. Now, I'm not going to touch this just yet. I'm going to prop that up over there. Because we're also going to add just a little glue to here, here, and here, because this is where it's asking us to put it. So I'm just going to put some on our little spreader here. And again, I'm not going mad with this, but we're going to pop some glue along here. So we got a nice bond happening, because you want plenty for this to cling to and give it its best shot. Now, I'm expecting there to be gaps, so we're going to have to hold this thing tight to get it to hold. Because what we don't want is gaps. We don't want gaps. I want the light shining through gaps in this thing. Okay, so let's install our wall. And again, just be confident with this as you do it. I mean, you're doing the right thing, you know. This is nothing new. Let's just line this up. Okay, that's in, and then you can see there's a gap. You can see light coming through there. Don't want a gap. So we're going to make sure that pulls in. Okay, now we're going to have to let this dry before we start rocketing ahead to the next part. We want this to dry before we install the next piece, so let's let that dry. And the next thing we're going to do is have prepared the edge of the frozen wall. It is going to clip in from the back. So I know it seems like we should be putting the floor in, but no, this is the way they say to do it, so this is the way we're going to do it. So that goes in. Now, we're not going to leave this one dry. We're going to add the floor to it, because if this needs to move to accommodate the floor, we can. So we bring the floor up, and we're going to be touching the floor. So there we are. We've dropped it into place now. So this just slots down there like that. The floor's slotted in, just a little push, and then everything lines up beautifully. Fairly simple. You just glue all your edges along here, and then it all drops down onto it. Bit of a wiggle, bit of a push down, and it will go to where it needs to go. We're going to tidy up some of this. I don't think we're actually going to tidy up this glue. We're going to put the floor in next, so I don't think we need to tidy the glue up, to be honest with you, because I think the floor gets a little extra glue. Brilliant. Okay, so bringing up our floor, we're just going to test fit it first, make sure it goes, yep, exactly where we need it to go, nice and snug. Now, we've done this before. We're not new to this. So, as with Mickey's, what we're going to do is we are going to put some glue on the reverse side of this floor. Now, again, it doesn't matter how much you put on as long as you give it time to dry. So let's make sure the edges are all done. There we go. Along here. Back up and into view. There we go. Come up here. Go over here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to make this shape. So we're all nice and covered. Okay. Now using our glue smearer, which I managed to misplace. Let me just grab mine. There we go. So I've got one of these. So I'm just literally going to spread the glue. So this has got a decent coat. Now these floors ain't going anywhere because they're going to get pinned in by the alcove and the wood panels. But that doesn't mean it shouldn't have a bloody good coat to begin with. So make sure our edges are coated. There we are. Now, all that's left to do is flip this over and drop it in. There we are. Let's drop that in. Now, again, I wouldn't worry about excess glue too much. If you are using wood glue, clear dry wood glue, doesn't matter. It's going to give an extra bond. Don't want anything too visible. And we certainly don't want any on the floor itself. So let's get rid of that. Yeah, let's push down. Now, the technique I used last time is the exact same one I'm using this time. Via the medium of Yankee Candle. That's how I'm going to weigh my floor down. Let's tie up some of this glue here. I'm going to leave that. I'm going to give that a good 24 hours before we start messing with it or moving it around. And that is all there is to do in stage 19. But now you see we have some structure. We have our walls together. We have our floor in place. I have a smear of glue all up my wall there. Let's get rid of that. But we're looking good. We're looking good. We are going to turbo because we're going to have another room built very, very, very shortly. Let's have a chat. There we go. That's 19 in the bag, and it's coming along really rather lovely now. We've got some proper structure to this house, not just a single room. We've now got 2 rooms. 19 and 20, we are just going to be doing a lot of wallpapering. So we are preparing the walls for the wonderland dining room, or kitchen, if you will. And again, I mean, there's this temptation to jump ahead. I completely get that. I do. And you might have seen the way that one was done, where it seems a bit weird, where you think, well, sure, you put the floor and then the wall. No, and there's a reason for that. The reason is, if you need to wobble and move, you want the one piece in, not the other. And the way that they piece in is they slot in like jigsaw puzzle pieces. So if you do it the other way, once the floor's in, you've got to put this down and then push in, and you risk snapping something. It doesn't mean you will, and you can do it without snapping it. But it means you've got an increased risk of snapping it because you're having to force it rather than it just go straight in. If you put the wall on and then drop it onto the floor, it just goes straight in. If you put the floor first, you then have to slot the wall in on an angle and pull it in, which is why you don't do it. The other one is, and you're going to come across parts where you're thinking, well, I've got this wall, I could just install this wall now. Why can't I? You can, but again, the reason why they're saying not to is you're working with wood. And you're introducing a liquid to a wood in your glue. Now, anyone that's got a door in their house that sticks in winter, all of a sudden this door that's been absolutely fine all summer now sticks a little bit, or it's a little stiffer than it normally is. You've got to pull it a little bit more. That's why. I mean, it's moisture in the air. So when you come across walls, you think, if there's a wall in this one, in I think 22, there's a wall where you think, well, I could just install that now. Don't. You're going to be tempted to do it. Don't. If you're picking this up weekly from the newsagents, you could maybe get away with this, but again, I wouldn't risk it. The reason why is because you've not got the floor yet. So you run the risk of smearing something in glue, attaching it to the model, the glue absorbing into the wood, expanding the wood, and now your floor doesn't quite fit right. You're having to push it down, and you're having to put undue stress on something. The way this one works is when we get to that wall, we're going to put it in at the same time as the floor. So everything goes in at the same kind of temperature, humidity and moisture. So it all goes in together. So it all dries together the same. So if there's any expanding or swelling, it all meets each other. So the expansion's actually quite good because it just tightens your floor. But if you've already done it, you're now forcing against it. It doesn't mean it will happen, but it can, which is why it is best to kind of follow the instructions and just have a little patience and be like, okay, well, I'll wait until it's time to do it. And that's why a lot of the time they're saying, you know, you've got a wall thing, well, I just have this wall now. I'd advise you don't. I can't stop you. You can do what you want to do. This is your model. But my advice is not to. Because normally there is a very good reason for this. And it's because of things like moisture and absorption and expansion of your wood. I've been building, you can see over here, I've been building wood models for years. And it's true. Some of these music boxes I've got up here will work beautifully in summer. In winter, the mechanism stiffens up because they absorb moisture in the air. It's very strange, but it's just the way it is. And this is why I would say, just be patient. If it hasn't told you to do something, don't do it. And you're going to find this a lot in this issue particularly, where it's asking you to make these Wonderland walls. You're like, why can't you put them in now? Just wait. Just wait. It's not so bad. Again, it's not so bad if you're doing it weekly through a newsagent. It's not so bad. If you're doing it monthly, though, it's a month until these next parts turn up. So if you go ahead and add a wall you're not supposed to add, a month later, that's enough time for that wood to settle and do what it's going to do with glue and whatnot absorbed into it. Don't risk it. Just don't risk it. It's not worth it, because when you go, my floor doesn't fit, or now my wall is crooked. That's why. The other reason is, well, you'll have bits that have to go on it that you're now trying to attach to a wall that you've already put in. And now you're trying to attach alcove and things like that would have been a lot easier to do had it just been left as it was. So just be conscious of that. I know it's tempting because a lot of, I mean, you could have got away with doing what we've just done last month. But again, I would just follow the instructions, because again, I've seen some of the Japanese builders that jumped ahead and ended up having to tear wallpaper off their walls. They had to rip out COVID and things, and that's going to be particularly key when we start fitting doors. When we start fitting doors in, if your walls haven't been put in straight, if your cladding and your alcoving hasn't been done right, you've done it out of sequence, or you've done it, all of a sudden your door's not going to fit in, it's not going to shut. So again, just be patient would be my advice. Anyway, that's it for this one. We're going to move on to 20, which will come up very shortly on the channel. Thanks for stopping by. In a world we can be anything at all, just be nice. And please don't forget to hit the thumbs up button for us and give us a like. And if you haven't yet, subscribe. All the cool kids are doing it. Be part of our gang. And we'll catch you on the next one.